Have to put my eyeballs on. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to explore the topic of building your foundation as a young leader and developing a leadership philosophy. Leadership is more than just a title. It's about influence, responsibility, and the impact that we have on others. Whether you're leading a team, an organization, or even just yourself. Having a clear leadership philosophy helps guide your actions, decisions, and interactions with others. So today, we're going to learn a little bit more about what a leadership philosophy is. We're going to talk about some core values as well as principles, and then we'll be applying those. Why it matters. So why does defining a leadership philosophy matter? Because leadership isn't one size fits all. It's a deeply personal journey shaped by our experiences, values, and our goals. Without a clear philosophy, leadership can become reactive rather than intentional. By understanding your leadership style and values, you create a foundation for consistency, trust, and meaningful impact. So we'll talk a bit about some common leadership styles. Throughout history, we've seen a variety of leadership styles. Some leaders take an authoritative approach, making decisions with confidence and direction. Others lead through collaboration, valuing teamwork and consensus building. Then there are servant leaders who put the needs of their teams first, empowering others to grow and succeed. Yet others lead by authenticity, which means being genuine, transparent, and true to your values while guiding others. It's about aligning your actions with your beliefs, communicating openly, and fostering trust by being consistent in who you are. Authentic leaders don't put on a facade or try to fit a mold. They lead with self awareness, honesty, and integrity. The best leaders understand their own natural tendencies while also adapting to the needs of their teams and circumstances. To define your leadership philosophy, you need to first identify what matters most to you. What are your non negotiable principles that guide your actions? What kind of leader do you aspire to be? This brings us to a moment of reflection. Take a moment to think about these questions. What do you believe makes a great leader? And what values do you want to embody as a leader? So take just a moment to think about that, because your answers to these questions will help shape your leadership philosophy. And when we think about our leadership values, we often talk about integrity, accountability, empathy. Starting with integrity, we develop a foundation of trust with others. A leader who acts with honesty and fairness earns the respect of their team and creates an environment where people feel safe to do their best work. Leading with integrity means doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Accountability, owning your actions and decisions. True leadership means taking responsibility, not just for successes, but for challenges and mistakes as well. Leaders who hold themselves accountable set a powerful example for their teams. When people see their leader take ownership, they are more likely to do the same, fostering a culture of responsibility and growth. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, sometimes literally. Great leaders listen and they understand and support their people. When leaders show empathy, they build strong relationships and create an environment where team members feel valued, heard, and motivated to contribute their best. And finally, a leader must have a vision. A leader without vision is like a ship without a compass. Visionary leaders set clear goals and inspire others to work toward them. They see possibilities, create opportunities, and help their teams navigate challenges with purpose and determination. When you're thinking about your own philosophy, we have some items that we're going to share, a slip of paper to take with you today as you're thinking through, hopefully taking time to reflect on your own personal leadership philosophy. The statement has a couple of blanks for you to fill in, and I'll give you some examples to help you as you are thinking about your leadership philosophy, not just now, but in the future. As a leader, I believe in whatever that core value is and strive to have an action or impact so that I can achieve a certain goal or purpose. So as you're thinking about this, crafting your leadership philosophy, let me give you a couple of examples to think about. As a leader, I believe in integrity and strive to lead by example so that I can foster trust and accountability within my team. Or you may choose continuous learning as your core value. As a leader, I believe in continuous learning and strive to seek growth opportunities so that I can empower my team to reach their fullest potential. Or you may also think about having empathy as your core value. As a leader, I believe in empathy and strive to understand the perspectives of others so that I can create a more inclusive and supportive work environment. We'll talk a little bit about how you can bring this to life, not just put words on a piece of paper, but actually live it out in action. A leadership philosophy influences our decision making. It helps us to stay aligned with our values, what we state as our core values during challenging times. And trust me, young leaders face challenging times, and we who are, shall we say, more seasoned leaders face challenging times as well. So knowing your core values and holding that dear, that will keep you on the path. And then also thinking about team dynamics, leading by integrity and example and fostering trust within your team. And it takes time to build that trust. I'd like to share with you a couple of examples. Whoops. Okay, I just talked about that. A couple of young leaders that we'll focus on today. And the first one is from the Old Testament, Samuel. And so maybe you've read his story, maybe not, but I invite you to learn a little bit more about Samuel, the prophet, who began his leadership journey at a very young age. And then also we'll talk about a historical example. Marshal Choikov, as a young leader, he was over thousands of men as a regimental commander. Why these men should have listened to a 19-year-old is pretty amazing. But I'll share a little bit more about both of their stories. With Samuel, he was one of the most influential figures in the Old Testament. And he served as Israel's last judge and a prophet who played a critical role in the nation's transition to monarchy. His story, primarily recorded in the book of 1 Samuel in the Old Testament, begins with his miraculous birth to Hannah, a woman who had been barren, but she had great faith in God and prayed in deep anguish that God would give her a child, vowing to dedicate him to long life service if her prayer was answered. God granted her request, and true to her word, she brought Samuel to the tabernacle at Shiloh under the high priest Eli. While serving in the temple, Samuel experienced a divine calling at a young age, hearing God's voice in the night. So here's a young child hearing the voice of God. Pretty amazing. This marked the beginning of his prophetic journey as he grew into a faithful servant and leader who directly communicated God's will to the people. When the Israelites demanded a king, like other nations. God directed Samuel to anoint Saul as Israel's first king. However, Saul disobeyed God's commands, and Samuel confronted him, declaring that God had rejected him and would appoint another real leader. Under God's guidance, Samuel later anointed David, that we know as King David, a humble shepherd, as the future king, setting the stage for a new dynasty in Israel. Samuel's role as a young person and beyond was pivotal in bridging the era between the judges and the establishment of a monarchy, acting as both a prophet and a leader who guided Israel through a period of great change. His unwavering faith and obedience to God set a powerful example, and his influence endured beyond his lifetime. His life exemplifies devotion, leadership, and the importance of heeding God's voice in times of uncertainty. Next, I have a photo of a very young Marshal Choikov at the age of 19. And in this picture, he was the commander of the 43rd Regiment of the 5th Rifle Division of the Red Army. And this was in 1919. If you know anything about regiments in Army units, the minimum number of people he would have had under his command was about 1,500. And that number could have been up to 5,000. That's a lot of people for a young person to command, right? Before he was Marshal of the Soviet Union, Vasily Ivanovich Choikov was a leader who rose swiftly within the ranks of the Red Army due to his natural abilities, knowledge gained from experiments and study, and personal attributes of leadership. In an essay published in the book Fighters for People's Happiness, 19-year-old regimental commander Choikov was described as an effective leader who was able to win over his older peers. I'll share a little bit of an anecdote with you. He was a young commander with clear and confident answers, seriousness beyond his years, and tactical intelligence. It was also valuable that he already had, albeit little, combat experience on the Southern Front in the Russian Civil War. Almost all the commanders and soldiers of the regiment were older than him. Some of them were old enough to be his father, and they were good fathers. And some of the subordinates were at first wary of him. Therefore, sometimes it was not easy going, but everyone tried to study diligently. Now, to his credit, Choikov knew weapons perfectly, and he could show any technique himself, even as a young man. What is extraordinary is that he explained to his subordinates patiently over and over again, and he checked meticulously. While teaching the Red Army soldiers, the young commander persistently studied and gained life experience, and gradually the difference in years began to fade away. Distrust was replaced by respect. Since that time, Choikov has retained for his whole life a special love for combat training, the desire to be convinced of the preparedness for each fighter for himself. Defining your leadership philosophy is an ongoing process. It's about self-awareness, reflection, and a commitment to continuous growth. By understanding your leadership style, identifying your core values, and embracing integrity, accountability, empathy, and vision, you can lead with confidence and purpose. So as you leave today, I encourage you to reflect on the kind of leader you want to be and take intentional steps toward becoming that leader. Because leadership isn't about power, it's about impact. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your message. Share the stories.
Yes.